My sister called my pregnant girlfriend a gold digger at our baby shower, so my dad canceled her entire wedding fund, tearing our family apart. Imagine standing in what's supposed to be one of the happiest moments of your life, celebrating the fact that you're about to become a parent, only for it to spiral into a family disaster that threatens to break everything apart. I'm Alex, 27, and this is the mess I never thought I'd be in. My girlfriend, Lily, 25, is 4 months pregnant with our first baby. We've been together for 3.5 years after meeting during our final semester of college. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but once it happened, neither of us hesitated to keep the baby. When we found out, Lily moved in with me. Her family was thrilled from the start, supportive, emotional, everything you'd hope for. My family, however, didn't take the news with the same warmth. Here's a little background. My dad, John, 53, owns a successful landscaping company, and my mom, Susan, 42, is a real estate agent. They live comfortably in a nice suburban house and are known for being generous with money. My sister, Sophia, 29, is set to marry her fiancé, James, 31, in 3 months. Lily, on the other hand, comes from a modest middle-class background. Her parents both work as administrative staff at a community college, hardworking, kind people, but not wealthy. When I first told my parents about the pregnancy, they congratulated us. But over time, something shifted. Their tone toward Lily became cold, polite, and distant. Before the pregnancy, my mom would hug Lily, ask about her work, and chat about normal things. After the announcement, all of that vanished. Sophia also started acting strangely, quiet, dismissive, and snarky in subtle ways. A few weeks later, my mom and Sophia asked me to come to Sophia's apartment for a private talk. They specifically told me not to bring Lily. I went, figuring they wanted to air some concerns. I didn't expect what came next. The conversation turned ugly fast. Sophia started by saying she found it suspicious that Lily got pregnant right before her wedding. According to her, Lily was trying to steal her spotlight. Then Mom jumped in, suggesting Lily had intentionally gotten pregnant to lock me in. She even used the phrase baby trap multiple times. I told them they were being ridiculous, that the pregnancy was an accident, but one we were both happy about. I also reminded them that Lily and I had already been talking about marriage long before the baby came into the picture. They didn't care. Sophia kept insisting the timing was too convenient, and Mom hinted that Lily was after the family's money, especially since she'd seen how extravagant Sophia's upcoming wedding was. I left furious and told Lily everything. She didn't say much, just nodded and said she could understand why they might think that, but it still clearly hurt her. My dad hadn't been there for that talk, but when I told him later, he was livid. He said their behavior was completely unacceptable and told everyone to stay civil. He's always liked Lily and treated her like she already belonged in the family. For months, we all acted like everything was fine. But Lily was tense whenever we saw them. My mom and Sophia would drop little harmless comments about money and timing, subtle enough to seem innocent, but cruel in context. Sophia even joked one time about how some people are lucky to have family help with baby costs. My dad, noticing the tension, told me it might help if I proposed to Lily soon, to show everyone we were serious about each other. We had planned to get engaged after the baby was born, but we decided to move it up. I proposed 3 weeks ago and she said yes. Unfortunately, the engagement made things worse. Sophia became openly bitter. She kept making snide remarks about us, rushing, and asked to see Lily's ring multiple times, inspecting it like a jeweler while commenting on how expensive it looked. Then came the baby shower. We decided to host it at my apartment, just close friends and family. Lily was excited. She wanted this day to finally feel happy and normal, and for a while it was. Everyone seemed relaxed. My dad helped with food and drinks. Lily was glowing. Then Sophia walked up to Lily as she was opening gifts. A small crowd had gathered around. Sophia asked to see her engagement ring again. Lily smiled politely and showed her hand. Sophia admired it for a few seconds, then smirked. She said something like, "Wow, this must have cost a lot. Well, if things ever don't work out, at least you can sell it and live off that for a while." Everyone froze, but she wasn't done. Sophia added, "You should really keep that safe. You never know if your plan to trap Alex with a baby will actually work." The entire room went dead silent. Lily went pale. I was about to say something, but my dad spoke first. He was furious, shaking with anger. He told Sophia that her comment was completely out of line and demanded that she apologize to Lily immediately. Sophia rolled her eyes and said everyone was being too sensitive. That's when my dad dropped the bombshell. He said if Sophia was so worried about people taking advantage of money, she could prove her independence by paying for her own wedding. He was pulling all financial support effective immediately. Chaos erupted. Sophia started screaming that he couldn't be serious, that the wedding was only 2 months away. Mom jumped in, yelling that Dad was overreacting to a harmless joke, but he didn't budge. Then Lily calmly said that, given how Sophia had behaved, she understood why Dad made that decision, and that she agreed it was fair. That only made things worse. My dad confirmed his decision was final. The scene that followed was pure madness. Sophia was sobbing, Mom was shouting that Lily had turned Dad against his own family, and guests started leaving out of sheer discomfort. Within 20 minutes, most people were gone. I told Mom and Sophia to leave my apartment. Mom glared at Lily and said she'd ruined the family before walking out. Dad stayed behind to apologize to Lily and her parents for how they'd been treated. He told Lily she didn't need to pretend to be nice anymore, and that he'd understand if she never wanted to see them again. It's been 5 days since that disaster. Mom and Sophia have been calling nonstop, begging me to talk Dad into changing his mind and demanding Lily apologize for instigating him. They're claiming she manipulated the whole situation. Dad told me Sophia and James had already paid deposits for everything, expecting him to handle the rest. Now, the vendors are threatening to cancel if payments aren't made soon. James's family can't cover the costs, and Sophia is desperate. Mom has stopped talking to Dad altogether and is now staying with Sophia while they try to salvage the wedding. Lily has stayed quiet. She spends her days working on the nursery and reading pregnancy books. She hasn't brought up my family once. I can tell she's trying to give me space to deal with it. I don't know what to do. Part of me thinks Dad went too far, but another part feels relieved someone finally stood up for Lily. Dad insists he won't change his mind unless Sophia gives a genuine apology. Sophia, of course, refuses, claiming she was just joking. Now we're 8 weeks away from her wedding and 6 weeks away from becoming parents, and my family's completely divided. Update 1. A lot has happened since my first post. I want to thank everyone for the advice. It gave me the courage to face things directly. First, I asked Lily if she resented me for what happened at the shower. I worried she might blame me for my family's behavior, but she said no. She told me she was actually relieved someone finally stood up to Sophia instead of brushing her comments aside. She admitted that months of little digs had worn her down more than she let on. When I asked how she felt about my dad cutting Sophia's wedding funds, she said she hadn't expected him to react that strongly, but she was grateful he defended her. She said agreeing with him felt right because Sophia needed to face the consequences of her cruelty. We also talked about the future. Lily said she'd be open to reconciling with my mom and Sophia someday, but only if they showed real remorse and changed their behavior. She didn't want our child growing up around bitterness and drama. Meanwhile, Sophia's wedding crisis was getting worse. Most vendors refused to work with her without full payment. James's parents tried to help financially, but it wasn't nearly enough. Sophia started calling extended family members asking for loans, our uncle, grandparents, even some family friends. Almost everyone refused to get involved. 2 weeks after the baby shower, Sophia called me crying. She said her wedding was falling apart and that she didn't understand why everyone was punishing her for one mistake. I told her it wasn't about a single comment. It was about months of passive-aggressive jabs, cruel remarks, and disrespect. I reminded her that the baby shower incident was simply the final straw. Sophia got defensive again, insisting her suspicions about Lily were valid, that the timing of the pregnancy just didn't add up, and that I was blind to it. That's when I realized she genuinely believed Lily was manipulative. After hanging up, I called Dad. He said Mom was still trying to convince him to pay, but he wouldn't back down. He said if he did, Sophia would never learn to take responsibility for her actions. Then something unexpected happened. James, Sophia's fiancé, called me. We'd barely spoken before, but he said he needed to talk to someone in the family. He told me he was having second thoughts about the wedding. He said seeing how Sophia reacted to losing the money had opened his eyes to a side of her he'd never seen. He was disturbed by her attitude toward Lily and by how she'd handled the entire situation. And that's where things stand right now. She had planned to pay off the remaining wedding expenses with credit cards and personal loans, even though she and James didn't have a steady enough income to manage the debt. James told me he didn't want to start their marriage already buried under financial stress. But what bothered him more than money were the things Sophia had said about Lily. He admitted that for months, her comments had made him uncomfortable. He tried to talk to her about it several times, telling her it was cruel and unnecessary. But Sophia always brushed him off, saying he was being dramatic. After what happened at the baby shower, James said he'd finally seen how harsh Sophia could be when she felt threatened. Then came the part that stunned me. James confessed he was thinking about canceling the wedding altogether, not because of the money, but because he no longer recognized the woman he was about to marry. He asked if I thought he was overreacting. I didn't know how to answer. I'd never seen my sister act like this before Lily's pregnancy, but the past few months had exposed an ugly side of her that I couldn't ignore. I told James to trust his instincts. Whatever decision he made, I understood his hesitation completely. That conversation opened my eyes. It wasn't just a family argument anymore. Sophia's behavior was destroying her engagement and tearing our family apart. I told Lily about my talk with James. She listened quietly, her face calm but thoughtful. She asked if I believed James would actually end the wedding. I said I wasn't sure, but it was obvious he was deeply troubled by both her behavior and her obsession with the wedding money. Lily sighed and said that while it wasn't our place to interfere, she pitied James for being dragged into our family chaos. In the weeks that followed, everything spiraled faster than anyone expected. Sophia grew more desperate about the bills, Mom was furious at Dad and refused to come home, and James was visibly pulling away. Meanwhile, Lily and I were just trying to stay focused on our baby, even as the family tension reached its breaking point. 3 weeks later, James made his decision. He called off the wedding. He came over to our place to explain everything in person. James said the past few weeks had shown him a side of Sophia he couldn't ignore. He'd realized he couldn't spend his life with someone who could treat another person, especially a pregnant woman, so cruelly. He said the final straw came when Sophia suggested they ask Lily to return her engagement ring, the one my father had given her, so they could sell it to pay for their wedding. James was horrified. When he refused, Sophia accused him of caring more about Lily than about his own fiancée. That was it for him. He told Sophia he couldn't marry someone who refused to take responsibility for her actions and who saw others only as tools for her convenience. The wedding was canceled just 2 weeks before the date. The deposits, nearly $9,000, were gone. Sophia was devastated. She called me sobbing, saying her life was over, that everything was Lily's fault. She swore that if Lily hadn't stolen all the attention, none of this would have happened. I told her plainly that she needed to stop blaming Lily for the consequences of her own choices. She hung up on me and hasn't spoken to me since. Mom was livid. She screamed at Dad over the phone, saying he had ruined Sophia's future. She accused Lily of tearing our family apart. Dad stayed calm but firm. He said Sophia's downfall wasn't anyone else's doing but her own. That was the last real conversation my parents ever had. Within weeks, Mom moved out of the house completely. She rented a small apartment near Sophia's new retail job. Dad told me they were considering divorce. As all this unfolded, Lily entered her 3rd trimester. We focused on the baby's arrival, setting up the nursery with help from her parents, who visited every weekend. My dad came by almost daily, assembling furniture, bringing groceries, and promising to be the best grandfather he could be. One day, during a birthing class, we ran into James. He was there with a new woman he'd started dating. The first few minutes were awkward, but James was kind and asked about Lily's health. After class, he apologized for all the drama that had surrounded us because of Sophia. I told him not to feel guilty. He said he was happier than he'd been in years and realized that walking away from Sophia was the smartest thing he ever did. He described his new girlfriend as calm, kind, and understanding. Listening to him made me appreciate Lily even more. She'd handled months of insults and chaos with quiet strength and grace. A few weeks later, our daughter Sophie was born, healthy, pink, and perfect. Holding her for the first time felt like everything we'd endured had finally been worth it. My dad cried when he saw her. He's now the proudest grandparent you could imagine, visiting twice a week and insisting on feeding and rocking her every chance he gets. Lily's parents adore their granddaughter too. They're always bringing meals, advice, and hugs. Our home finally feels peaceful, but that peace came at a price. Mom never reached out. When I texted her a photo of Sophie and her birth details, she didn't reply. Dad later mentioned that she'd seen the photo and asked if the baby was healthy, but she never contacted us directly. Sophia has gone silent too. She still lives with Mom, working in retail, barely making ends meet. Meanwhile, James married his new girlfriend quietly at a courthouse last month. Seeing their wedding photos online was surreal, but I couldn't even be angry. He deserved happiness. Mom and Dad's divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. Mom took half their assets, Dad kept the house. They only communicate through lawyers now. Dad has started seeing someone new, a warm, kind woman named Janet. She treats Lily and Sophie like family, and Lily says she's glad Dad found someone who values peace over drama. Life is busy now, filled with diapers, sleepless nights, and quiet moments that make it all worth it. Lily went back to work part-time, and I work from home so I can help with Sophie. We're saving for a house. Dad even offered to help with the down payment. People sometimes ask if I miss my mom and sister. Honestly, I miss the version of them I thought I knew, but not the constant judgment and tension. Lily says she doesn't miss walking on eggshells or wondering what insult would come next. Our home is calm now, and that's what our daughter deserves. Sophie laughs easily and has Lily's eyes. Dad jokes that she already has everyone wrapped around her finger. We're planning her first birthday even though it's months away. Looking back, I realize sometimes the hardest part of growing up is realizing that family can be toxic and learning when to protect your own peace. Lily and I chose calm, kindness, and love. And as I watch Sophie sleep in her crib, I know we made the right choice. Because sometimes, the real family you build is the one that finally teaches you what love is supposed to feel like. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.